Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into something super relevant for learners.
Study hacks.
Yeah, effective learning strategies.
Exactly. We've been digging into this podcast, Genius Minds, Ultimate Study Hacks for Students, and we're pulling out the best, most actionable, science-backed tips they shared.
Mm-hmm.
The goal here is basically to give you a shortcut to studying smarter. Soaking up info without that feeling of being totally overwhelmed.
Grounding in notes.
Right. We'll cover note-taking, focus, time management, even procrastination, lots to unpack.
And what's great about the Genius Minds material is how they connect these practical tips to the actual science of learning.
Yeah, it's not just random advice.
No, exactly. There's a why behind it, often from cognitive science. It's less about tricks and more about building, I guess, a better learning system for yourself.
Okay, let's start with notes then. A real cornerstone.
Absolutely fundamental.
They talked about a few methods, and Cornell notes came up pretty strongly for lectures.
Yeah, they highlighted that one. And it makes sense. That structure with the Q column, it almost forces you to engage actively and think about recall later.
Totally. That built-in review is the magic of Cornell notes, I think. Summarizing, writing questions.
Yeah.
You're processing it deeper.
Right, not just typing what the lecturer says.
Exactly. It shifts note-taking from passive to active, which is huge. And they contrasted that with mind mapping, said it was maybe better for creative subjects. What's your take on that?
Oh, yeah, I can see that. For stuff like literature or history, maybe, where you're looking for connections, bigger themes,
Right.
a mind map's visual, nonlinear thing just works. You see the relationships differently than in straight lines of text. It's like a web.
It is like a web. It taps into how our brains link ideas, see hierarchies. Great for brainstorming, getting that big picture view.
Makes sense.
And then bullet journaling came up too. Not strictly for notes content maybe, but more for managing the whole study process.
Okay, like tasks and deadlines.
Yeah, tracking everything. It just kind of underscores how crucial organization is for learning effectively. You can't learn well in chaos.
True. But the one they really flagged called it a game changer, especially for STEM. The Feynman technique.
Oh yeah, the Feynman technique, it's brilliant.
The idea is explaining something complex super simply, like to a 5-year-old. What's the power there? Why does that work so well?
Well, it forces you to find the gaps in your own understanding. Right.
Oh, okay.
If you can't explain it simply, clearly you haven't really got it. You can't hide behind jargon or, complicated formulas.
You have to actually understand the core principles.
Precisely. It's amazing for really cementing knowledge, not just memorizing.
Okay, interesting. Let's pivot to focus. A huge challenge, right? All the notifications.
Tell me about it.
Yeah.
Constant battle.
The podcast had some neat ideas for concentration, dealing with distractions, some potentially helpful for ADHD challenges too, like body doubling, just studying with someone else in person or online for accountability.
Yeah, it sounds simple, but there's psychology there. That social influence, knowing someone else is working.
It gives you a nudge.
It does. Provides external motivation, makes it feel less isolating, maybe. It helps externalize that self-control piece that's tough when you're alone.
Right. And then binaural beats, a bit more out there maybe.
A little unconventional, yeah.
But apparently some people find them useful for focus. Is there any theory behind that?
Well, the idea is that different sound frequencies in each ear can potentially influence brain waves, maybe nudge them towards focus or relaxation. The research is, still developing, and it definitely varies person to person. But using sound to affect brain states, it's an interesting field.
Okay. But something super practical they mentioned was the 5 more minutes rule.
Ah, yes. Love that one.
When you just want to quit, you tell yourself, okay, just 5 more minutes. And often that's enough to get you back in the zone. Why is that little push work?
It's about momentum, isn't it?
Yeah.
Getting started or restarted is often the hardest bit.
Totally.
Committing to just 5 minutes lowers that barrier. Once you're doing it again, it's easier to keep going. You trick your brain past the resistance.
Clever. And fidget toys. Apparently, research actually backs them up for focus sometimes.
Surprising.
Right. Yeah. Seems backwards, but I guess for some people, that little physical outlet helps quiet the mental chatter.
Exactly. Channels that restless energy. They also mentioned specific tools. Focus at Will, Forest app, noise-canceling headphones.
Right. ADHD-friendly aids. What makes tools like these helpful in today's world?
They tackle different parts of the distraction problem. Focus at Will or Brain.fm use sound-specific music patterns. Forest gamifies not using your phone.
The tree growing app.
That's the one. And good headphones just block out the noise pollution. They all aim to create a bubble for deep work, Cutting down those external and internal pulls on your attention.
Yeah, creating that bubble is key. Okay, let's talk time management. Super important if you're juggling studies with, well, life.
Always a balancing act.
Time blocking scheduling literally every hour, even breaks. Sounds intense, but I can see the appeal for structure.
It can sound rigid, but the main benefit is making your time intentional. You see where it's going.
You have to decide what fits where.
Right, you allocate slots, plan ahead, fewer things fall through the cracks, and you get a clear roadmap for the day. It can actually reduce overwhelm.
Interesting. And the Eisenhower matrix. Urgent versus important. That's a classic.
Yes, a classic for a reason, forces you to think critically about where your energy should go.
What's the key to using it right, though? It's easy to misjudge.
Definitely. The key is being honest about both urgency and importance. We get sucked into urgent but ultimately unimportant stuff all the time.
The tyranny of the urgent.
Exactly. The matrix helps you spot those important but not yet urgent tasks, the ones that need proactive effort for long-term goals. It's about doing what moves the needle.
Not just fighting fires.
Right.
The podcast also pushed for ruthlessly cutting out shoulds. That hit home for me.
Oh, yeah. The obligation tasks.
We do things because we feel we should, even if they don't align with our goals. How do you get good at spotting and ditching those?
It takes conscious thought and knowing your real priorities. Ask, why am I really doing this?
Yeah.
If the answer is just because someone expects it or vague guilt, it's probably a should you can drop. Learning to say no frees up so much mental space and time.
Saying no is a skill. And then automation. Using tools like Zapier for repetitive stuff, that's smart.
Totally. Leverage technology for the grunt work so you can focus on actual learning.
Yeah, get the robots to do the boring bits. They also touched on Pomodoro, those 25-minute work sprints, 5-minute breaks. Simple but effective structure. Why do those short breaks help so much?
Well, it breaks work into less daunting chunks, right? Helps fight off mental fatigue.
Keeps you fresher longer.
Exactly. Those short breaks let your brain reset a bit, prevents burnout. You end up being more productive overall and probably retain more than if you just tried to power through for hours. It's working smarter.
Smarter, not just harder. Got it. Okay, next up. Study apps. Genius Minds had a good list. Notion for, like, organizing your whole life.
Yeah, Notion's huge, super flexible.
They said it has student templates specifically.
It does. Notion's power is its customization. You can build interconnected notes, tasks, projects, anything. The templates give students a ready-made structure for courses, assignments, etc. Easy to start and tweak, like a personalized digital command center.
Cool. Then Anki for memorization. Med students swear by it, apparently. That spaced repetition thing.
Oh yeah, Anki and Space Repetition Systems, SRS, are incredibly powerful for long-term memory. It's like smart flashcards.
How does that spacing actually work to help memory?
It basically hacks the forgetting curve. You know how we forget things over time.
Right. Pretty quickly, usually.
SRS algorithms schedule reviews right before you're likely to forget. Each time you recall it successfully, the interval gets longer. It pushes info into long-term memory way better than cramming.
So it shows you stuff just as you're about to lose it. Clever.
Very. And then Quizlet, live for a group study. Sounds more fun.
Yeah, collaborative learning. Turning it into a game almost.
And that collaborative aspect is beneficial too, right? Explaining things to others tests your own understanding.
True, teaching is learning.
You get different perspectives, find your own blind spots. Plus, the social side, maybe a little friendly competition. It makes studying less of a chore.
Definitely. Otter.ai for lecture transcription. Wow, that feels like a superpower.
Huge time saver for review, yeah. Especially if you struggle taking notes live.
And cold turkey for blocking distracting sites. Sometimes you just need the digital handcuffs.
Yeah, willpower backup. Having transcripts lets you revisit lectures properly, and blockers create that essential focused zone. Both about controlling your inputs, really.
Taking control. And Brain.fm, more focus music, designed by neuroscientists.
Yeah, similar idea to focus at will, using specific audio patterns designed to help your brain stay in a concentration zone, minimizing distraction without being distracting itself. It's interesting how much tech is aiming at cognitive support now.
It really is. Okay, final big topic. Procrastination and motivation. The bane of every student's existence at some point.
Absolutely. Universal struggle.
I liked how they framed procrastination not just as laziness, but as emotional regulation.
That's a really insightful reframe, isn't it?
Yeah, we avoid tasks maybe because of anxiety or fear of failure or just feeling overwhelmed, not because we're inherently lazy. How does knowing that help?
Well, it shifts the focus. Instead of beating yourself up, you can try to identify the feeling that's triggering the avoidance.
Like, what am I actually trying to avoid feeling right now?
Exactly. Once you know the trigger, fear, boredom, whatever, you can find strategies to manage that emotion, making it easier to actually start the task. It's more compassionate and more effective.
Right. And the 2-minute rule? If it takes less than 2 minutes, just do it now. So simple.
Deceptively simple, but powerful. It stops those tiny tasks from piling up into a mountain of dread.
And gives you a little win.
Totally. Creates momentum, a little positive feedback loop.
And temptation bundling. Pairing studying with something you actually enjoy.
Yeah, making it less painful and more appealing. Use a reward you already like to sweeten the deal of studying.
How do you do that effectively?
Link it directly. Maybe only listen to your favorite podcast while you review notes, or save your favorite snack for after a study block, or study at your favorite coffee shop. Make the reward contingent on the work.
Okay, like bribing yourself, basically.
Kinda. But hey, if it works. Habit stacking is similar to linking studying to something you already do, like right after coffee.
Nice.
It's automatic.
Build it into the routine.
Then there was visualizing failure, imagining the negative consequences if you don't start. That feels a bit harsher.
Yeah, negative motivation. Can that backfire?
It can if you dwell on it too much. It might provide an initial kick, sure, but it's probably better to balance it with visualizing success, the benefits of getting the work done. Use the failure image sparingly as a reminder of the stakes, maybe, but don't let it spiral into anxiety.
Right. Focus more on the positive outcomes. Okay, so we've covered a lot.
Loads of strategies.
For everyone listening, this deep dive pulled a ton from genius minds. The suggestion was maybe just pick one thing that stood out.
Yeah, just one technique.
Maybe the Feynman technique for that tough subject. Or time blocking if your schedule's chaotic. Try it this week.
And reflect a bit, Which of these feels like you? Which fits your style, your current challenges? Experimentation is absolutely key. What works for one person?
Might not work for another. Totally.
It's about finding your best way to learn.
Which brings us to a final thought. Think about how consciously using even just one of these strategies, consistently, how that could add up over time.
Compound effects.
Exactly. Less overwhelm, better learning. We've laid out the tools from the source material today. Now the next step is really yours. Experiment, see what clicks, and unlock your own most effective way to study.